Hill in the gun with Hill to his right. Play action to the right. Steps up, throws over the middle. He's got Thornton. Caught it! Junior Thornton. Split. 6. Touchdown. Midway.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Hill, right side, finds a seam. Hill, 20. Hill, 10. Hill, touchdown. Midway, no flags. Midway takes the lead by more than one score. And how about the Big Uglies inside?
Now, here's David Smoak.
We look up, and yet it's the final week of the 2022 high school football season in Texas. Now, there are still 6 playoff weeks to come, but this is it. It's the last regular season weekend. It is also the last district weekend. There are still playoff opportunities and appearances to be had and district championships to be won, and even more so, how people and what teams and programs wins and losses and how it affects the bracket, whether it's in Class 1A, 6-man football, and also all the way up to Class 6A, where they aren't split, as you know, before the season in the divisions. That happens based on 1 through 4 in the district and enrollment figures along the way. We will look back at some of the great games or the at least games that jumped out at me from week 11 or week 10 of the high school season. We'll look ahead to the best games this week in the high school football season, thanks to Jerry Forrest and pigskinprep.com and their index. And then also a couple of features today. One, what a story at University High in Waco, where Kent Laster in a short amount of time has taken one of the programs that has just not won. And they've had long losing streaks, and they're going to the playoffs. And they're playing for a district title or a piece of it this week in their game against Rouse and Leander. And so we'll hear from Kent Laster. We'll also hear from Grady Rowe, head coach at Bellville. He has been a head coach at Troy, did a good job there. And now Bellville, one of the historical programs in Texas history. And then on top of that, that's where Richard Reese, the dynamic freshman running back, true freshman at Baylor, where he played his high school ball, and a little bit about his time at Bellville High School. All right, so here we are with the best wins, I thought, of the ones that jumped out at me in 6A. North Shore, we know how good they are. We know how dominant they have been. They beat Atascocita, who is they're right there in the mix. Atascocita out of Humble, Texas, 16-13. North Shore, all the way down to the very bottom as far as classifications and 6-man Class 1A. I thought the Jonesboro win against May was very impressive, 65-40. Back up to 6A, a game we featured last week, Duncanville and DeSoto, and Duncanville smothered DeSoto 41-17. This one here, not surprised in 3A Division I that Franklin won. The Lions are really good. But Yo has really been better this year. They're starting to climb back up to where they had been in Rick Rhodes' return to where he won state championships at Yo. Franklin beat Yo 63-7. Another running back over 300 yards. The Lions are starting to get that, like they haven't had it going. They won the state championship last year, and they are rolling right now. Also, back to 6A. I thought South Lake Carroll would beat Byron Nelson. And they did, but very competitive game, 38-23. Manville, we know how good they have been, but Fulshire, what a good win for them. 9-7 over Manville in what had to have been an absolute slugfest. In 6A, Allen has now lost back-to-back games to Geyer and now lost to Prosper. That just doesn't happen, but it did. And Prosper has beaten Allen now back-to-back years, winning 29-24. Hooks in a really good game. In the lower levels, 28-24 in a really very good game against DeKalb at 28-24. Wall 10, early 7. That was going to be a low-scoring game, and it was. Now, a couple of notes from last week, and this is about scores. Austin LBJ scored 96 points. Remember earlier this year, West scored like 86 points. University, who will feature with Kent Laster, the head coach, scored 78 points. Galveston Ball scored 83 points. It may be me. I know scoring has been up really for the last, what seems like 25 years or 25 years, and I know a lot of it has to do with the spread offense, but it seemed like things were starting to maybe turn a little bit And I wonder if splitting the classifications up in Division I and Division II before the year starts has created even more dominant type wins. I'm not saying this, and I'm not even complaining about the points being scored. My philosophy has always been, you give up 85, you got to get better. Don't blame it on somebody else who's that good to be able to do that, because those kids all deserve a chance to score even late in the game. 96, 83, 78. We had 86 earlier this year. Is it me? Or is it maybe just, I don't know. But, man, the scoring seems to be up. And I'm talking big-time blowout wins along the way. Now, here's a graphic. Last week, Mart won. They beat Dawson. And Kevin Hoffman of Mart is now number 2 all-time best winning percentage. This graphic, thanks to Jacob Wilson. Coach's all-time winning percentage, minimum of 100 wins. Katie's Gary Joseph actually has gone up this year. Katie's 9-0. Started back in 2004, Hall of Fame coach. He's done it all at Katie. Numerous state championships, 250 wins, 23 losses. He's winning at a clip of 91.6%. But right below him now, this is 11-man football, because Jerry Burkhardt is on suspension at Richland Springs, would be in that just above 90 percentile. But this is 11-man football. Kevin Hoffman, remember the story from earlier this year. He had the great run at Mart. They won back-to-back state titles. They were about to win another one. They lost to Windthorst when they had a offsides call and an extra point. Windthorst went for 2 and scored and stunned Mart to win the state title. Kevin was going to hang it up that year, but then he had to come back. Last year, Mart didn't go as deep as normal. Well, they're 9-0. He is now number 2 all-time because he picked up his 100th win. 111 overall record. He's number 2 all-time. Number 3, John Wilkins. A lot of that time, of course, that you remember the great Odessa Permian teams. Absolutely right in the middle of that, John Wilkins. Terry Gamble. He was the head coach at Midway. That was his first head coaching job in 2010 at Midway. We covered him. State championship appearance in 2011. He then went back to Allen, where he was an assistant coach, and then won a state title there. He's at 88.6%. Cade Burns, 88.5%. You look at his record from 2009 to 2018. Butch Ford, who was a part of that back and forth, remember the great teams at Salina and elsewhere. He's number 5 or 6 all-time from 2002 to 2011, what he did during that time. Here's a name we featured this year, Scott Surratt. He's been at Carthage since 2007. Look at that record. 199 and 29. Are you kidding me? Great coach, and he is rolling again at 9-0. I think they're 10-0. They have an off week this week. 10-0 headed into Class 4A Division II. Alex Durley had a great run up nearly a decade, won 87% of his games. Jeff Traylor, now the head coach at UT San Antonio, UTSA, 87.1% at Gilmer. Chris Keating at Canadian, 158 and 24, and then Hank Carter. Now they've had 3 losses this year, which is uncharacteristic, but still just under 86% of his games. Those are the top 10 winningest coaches with 11-man football, some of them still present, and then some of the historical nature. All right, when we come back, Bellville, the Brahmas, one of the winningest programs in Texas high school football history. They've played in a couple of state championship games. They're really good. They're 9-0, and it is a loaded 4A Division II, and in their region is a team that has been their nemesis in West Orange Stark, who's down as far as their record, and most likely that's who they play in the first round. You have Silsby. You have teams in that particular region, Cuero. It ought to be a dogfight, and we'll come back with Grady Rowe on Belleville Brahma football, and also Baylor freshman running back Richard Reese. This is 365 Sports and the Texas High School Football Statewide Podcast, powered by 365 Sports and Smoaky.com.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB Your Bank for Life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
There are historical programs in the state of Texas, and we have touched on some of them, and we mentioned them along the way. Bellville's 9-0. Bellville has over 600 overall wins. Their first year of existence was back in 1916, and the Brahmas are very, very good again, as it seems like they have been for a long, long time. Their head coach, Grady Rowe, who once coached at Troy, joins us on the statewide high school football podcast. So what does being a Bellville Brahma mean, in your opinion, when young men grow up and start to play football at the high school?
Well, I tell you, it's important. It's important in our community, and you know, they grow up wanting to be Brahmas. That's just a long tradition here. Dates back way before Grady Rowe, for sure. But you know, this community just supports our kids so much, and obviously with football, they play football here, and our kids want to grow up and be Brahmas, and that's important to them.
All right, I got to make sure I get this right, because Paul Pewitt, the Brahmas, and you're the Brahmas, right? That's kind of like, that's how it's said there.
That's right. Brahmas, or if you're a real old timer, then they're Brahmers. The Brahmers.
I love it. I am an old timer, Grady. You know that. So, you know, the school has had a great history. I mentioned that. 37 or so district titles or playoff appearances, 26 or 27 district titles, including the 9-0 this year. There have been a couple of times, man, they've been close with a couple of state championship appearances, but didn't get it done. Has that been something that is everyone's thirsty for that opportunity yet again?
Absolutely. You know, 2012, we were semifinalists, and you know, we've made some runs, but just haven't been able to get over that hump. But definitely something that we talk about, something that's our goal. And you know, our volleyball team has done wonderful over the years and won a bunch of state championships. We've fallen short football-wise, and definitely want to get there and talk about it, and is a big goal, obviously.
The Pasture of Pain.
Pasture of Pain, that's right.
Is that the name or the nickname of your stadium when you're playing at home?
You know, it is. Huey Chancellor, who was there was one coach in between us. Huey Chancellor, who was here for probably 14, 15 years, kind of coined it, the Pasture of Pain, and that is kind of stuck. It's in our stadium, and that's what we know it as the Pasture of Pain.
Grady Rowe, head coach at Bellville, with us. Again, the Brahmas are 9-0 and have one more game left before they start the playoff run in a very, very deep region in Class 4A. Class 4A Division II, Region 3. All right, I look at your schedule, and I know LaGrange was a tight game at the beginning, but you have, in West Columbia, but you have blown through everybody. Sealy 28-7. You're not giving up much points. How good is your defense, and why?
Well, our defense has been really strong so far this year. We've got to keep it up, but you know, we've got some great senior leadership there and some veteran guys, but we have a young one that's had some offers. Matter of fact, Baylor has offered, and obviously he's very interested in Baylor. But DJ Sanders, a 6'3", 300-pound defensive end, has kind of been our anchor. He's very disruptive, a playmaker, and then you throw some of those seniors and that leadership that we have behind him. we've been pretty good up front, and I think that's helped us a whole lot.
So what has surprised you, if anything, about this team? Going in, you have your expectations. You know who you have, the depth chart, the two deep, whatever. You know the talent level, the youngins as well. What has maybe surprised you about this team in 2022?
Well, I think offensively, just, Sam Raninsky has been our number one back, and we knew we would look totally different than what we've looked in the past when you lose two Division I running backs and some other key guys, but specifically two D1 running backs. When you lose those guys, you know you're going to be a little different. And we knew we probably wouldn't be as explosive, but we've been really, really good up front. And then we just kind of old school football, found the rock a little bit. And that's what we've been able to do with those guys up front. And then our backs have done just a great job.
Grady, you mentioned losing running backs. One of them, everyone is starting to get to know a little bit more. You've known about him. Richard Reese, the true freshman at Baylor, who's been able to step in. He was going to play, but has been able to step in because Baylor had a couple of guys out early as well. Did you ever expect he could step in like he has at Baylor and done what he's done as a true freshman in college football at a Power 5 school?
Well, I don't know that I knew he would get back-to-back games with 30 carries and carry the load like he has. I knew he was capable. I didn't know it would be done as quickly as it has been. Richard kind of went under the radar a little bit in recruiting until really late junior year and then early in his senior year, obviously. But I knew he was capable. I didn't think he would do it this quick, to be real honest.
Can you go back and you discussed how he was under the radar, and I remember his name because I cover high school football, and it's not just the Central Texas or East Texas area. I kind of know what's going on out there. Can you kind of go over that recruitment, and how did Baylor, and when did Baylor, and what was the difference in him going to Baylor?
Well, I think Baylor was one of the teams, obviously, that kind of kept their eyes on him early, just having the relationship with some of those guys, and they just do a great job of everything. I think the world of that staff and those guys, but they always do a great job of coming by here. And I can't say that about everybody, but we do get good traffic. But Baylor just always coming by and keeping an eye out. And then just that offer, and they said, hey, we really, really like him. He fits what we do. And they just felt like that was just a great fit for them. And then through the recruitment, obviously, Richard thought it was a great fit too.
When you look at his height and size, and sometimes people do that too much, we see what Deuce Vaughn's doing at Kansas State, and I'm not trying to compare Richard to Deuce Vaughn, but somewhat diminutive and yet tougher than nails, wiry, finds a way to not get that clean hit on him. Was that the way he was at Bellville, or was it just pure he could just outrun anybody wherever he wanted to go?
Well, I think it was that combination. Most of the time, yeah, he was outrunning them. He hit the hole and he would outrun them. But when you really needed that and you were against a really good team, he always had that lean forward. Just like you said, never a real clean shot on Richard. He just natural instincts and vision that, that you're seeing now. We saw just early on and knew he was special.
For a school like Bellville, to have a young man step in as a freshman and play right away, basically as a varsity player at the high school level, what allowed that to happen? And did you know that when you watched him maybe playing junior high ball?
We did. At the junior high level, we knew, his 8th grade year, as we watched him just really grow that 8th grade year into his freshman year, and even at that age, he was such a hard worker. And just loved the game. And as we started talking, we're like, guys, I think we're probably going to have a freshman starting for us at running back here. It just really had a lot of talent, obviously, and just loved the game and loved everything about it, even embraced the grind as a freshman. And he was one of the freshmen that we said, hey, we want you with our varsity working out during the summer. And the way the kids just flocked to him, even as a freshman, was pretty neat to see.
Grady, what kind of person was he as he grew up? And as you said, he loved the grind. I mean, I don't care what classification it is. A freshman stepping in, especially at a place like you with all the lineage and history at Bellville, the young man, he seems to be kind of a quiet assassin in some ways.
You nailed it. Really quiet guy, humble guy. One of the best stories I can tell you about his character is several parents emailed me one morning, called me, talked to me about what they saw him do at a baseball game. Our student section at a baseball game, baseball's big here. Student section cheering at a baseball game, and he went to a kid that was off by himself and went and sat by him and talked to him and said, "Hey, I want you to come sit with me and join us in the student section." And that moved a lot of people. Just kind of a kid that was sitting by himself, maybe a little bit of an outcast. And that's Richard. I mean, he fit in with every group there was, whether it was our Cowboys, whether it was our different types of kids. He fit in with every group. But I thought that story and what they said, that says a lot about his character, and that's him.
That's awesome. Did you ever once have to raise your voice at him?
Maybe just hurry up and get your rear back to the huddle so we can run another play, because he would hit the hole so hard and keep going. It was like, "Come on, Richard, I get back and get another rep in right here."
I'm not trying to compare him, because Earl Campbell was a thumper, and he also was an incredible he had all of it, that power, speed, whatever, coming out of John Tyler and then at UT and then even with the Oilers. But remember how Earl used to finish up a play, and it was like he was dead. And he'd slowly get up and barely make it back to the huddle, and then he'd run right over you or run right past you yet again. Do you remember those years with Earl?
Absolutely. Big Houston Oilers fan, and used to talk about exactly what Earl would do right there, what you're saying. Just a great kid. He watch him in the end zone. He's not one that's going to celebrate and say me, me, me. He's all about the Baylor Bears and the team.
So great story. Do you get to trade much text messages? Have you talked to him since the season began?
Absolutely. Weekly, if not a couple of times a week. He FaceTimed me a couple of nights ago, and
that's cool.
we just got to visit, and just the opportunity to see his face and visit with him a little bit and tell him how proud I am. I tell you what, I can't tell you how much I think of that kid and what type of character kid he is.
I'll share this when I got in touch with you about having you on about Bellville, and we're going to get back to that, this year's team and the history. You said, I can't talk enough about him. I can't wait to talk much about him when you're talking about Richard Reese. So do you remember the most carries he ever had in a game, just off the top of your head, an approximate number at Bellville?
It had to be 28 to 35, somewhere around in there. Yeah, there were times that he was definitely carrying the load for us.
All right, back to your team. 9-0, Sweeney this week, and then you start the playoffs. And I know you can't get past what you have with Sweeney, but my goodness, Carthage has moved into the Class 4A Division II, Region 2 with Gilmer. And now you still have a nemesis who you might end up playing right away with West Orange Stark. They're down a little bit with their record. You have Silsby, Hampshire Finette, Aquero. Hello, playoffs, right?
That's right. Region 3 might be the toughest region in the state, any level, just relative to your classification. Unbelievable. Some very tough teams just coming out of the district that we'll open up with is pretty crazy.
Well, and it is. And is that on your mind because Bellville and West Orange Stark's history in the last decade or so?
Well, right now, I'm going to give you a little coach speak. We're focused on the Sweeney Bulldogs.
That's why you're successful. That's why you're successful. Okay, what do you have to do, or where do you have to be better because of what you're about to face with Sweeney? I know their record is 1-8, but to take care of business. But how much or what do you have to improve on to make that playoff run when, in fact, it does start?
Well, we've got to cut down on our turnovers a little bit. We've coughed it up a little bit. We've created a lot, but we have turned it over a little bit. We've got to do a little better job holding on to the ball. And we just have to continue up front to be able to push people around a little bit, run the ball, and then with our passing game, we've got to improve a little bit there for sure.
All right, you're at Bellville since 2011. I got to know you a little bit when you were at Troy, ending 7 years there. You did a nice job at Troy. How much did those 7 years at Troy help set you up for Bellville?
Oh, absolutely did. Troy is a great place. I've had the opportunity to work for just an awesome person and superintendent and Kerry Hansen, and can't say enough about what I learned from him, and just a really great place that really prepared me for this job, which has been just another just great place to be.
In 2004, your first year at Troy, your second game was your first win, I believe, against Academy. How much do you still remember that? Is that still the one that stands in your mind, or is there another win along the way, whether it's Troy or Bellville, that sticks out to you the most?
Well, there are so many. Definitely that one does stick out. There's another one in I'm forgetting what year we went over to Crawford, and they were kind of been our nemesis there, and just a great program, very well coached football team, and I think they were number one in the state at the time, and we beat them at their place. That one definitely sticks out. But then you look Bellville, we've got so many memorable victories. Just we could talk all day about all the victories and things like that here. Probably our first playoff win here, and first district championship, first time to beat our big rival down the road in my second year. So many that are in my mind. Yes, there's plenty of them.
In 2006, you beat Crawford for the first time, 25-3, and then I think you ran off 4 straight years you beat Crawford when you were at Troy. That hasn't happened to too many people that have done that with the Pirates and their great history. Grady, congratulations. I know you've got Sweeney to try to close out 10-0. Bellville with the great history. You got a team, a great region. Ought to be fun. Thanks for also the insight on Richard Reese. We appreciate you very much, and good luck the rest of the way.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me. Enjoyed it.
Grady Rowe, head coach at Bellville, was at Troy for 7 years, and now he's been at Bellville since 2011. And what a run that the Brahmas have been on, and what a run they're on this year. This is David Smoak, 365 Sports, Smoaky.com, and the Statewide High School Football Podcast. My conversation with Kent Laster and the job he's done at University High in Waco, that is next.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
University High football coach Kent Laster with me on 365 Sports. So what's the mood around here? This has been a hard place to win, as you know. You knew that when you took the job. We spoke with you the day it became official, and it's happening.
The mood has been great. Our players have bought in. This has been a long process. Started all the way back after the last game against Seguin last year. That Monday after, just brought the team together, and we all made a decision that 2022 is going to be a special year. Had a great off season. Kids went on to play their secondary sports, basketball, football, ran track, and then went into a boot camp, and then spring ball, and then summer attendance was great. And then now we're seeing the benefits of the commitment that our players made back then.
You know, you can say everything, you can try to get people engaged and whatever else, but winning obviously gets even more attention. How much has that helped to see success in the win-loss column?
It's been tremendous. And the thing about it is we should have 3 more wins. We've got 3 losses by a total of 4 points, two 1-point losses, and then we lost the season opener, which was a close ball game. And in those games, we had a chance to win, or we were already up with literally a minute or less to go in the game. So we should really be 8-1, but we took those close losses, and I believe that's gotten us battle tested for the playoffs and for the game we're playing against Belton.
When you lose a close game, was there any of that, okay, we just can't win, or did that just bring more commitment and focus from the players?
No backing down from our players. We talk about it all the time. If we win, we're going to do it the right way. If we lose, then, hey, we're going to congratulate that team, and we're going to have our helmets on. We're going to stand with dignity and make sure we shake their hand and tell them good game. But at the end of the day, we got to go back to the drawing board and do what we have to do to win the next game, and that's what we've done. There's not been any let up from our players to answer that question.
Was there a moment in the offseason when you could tell it clicked? And number 2, was there a moment during the season when you went, okay, we got this?
I know when we lost to Elgin, when we lost to them by 1 point, and when I saw how our players were after the game, there was not one head down. There was nobody was finger pointing. I knew that was a big change. And then even before the season leading up, we did a lot of stuff off campus and away from football. We went to TCU spring game. We went to Texas A&M spring game. We went to Baylor. We went to UT Austin. We spent time even away from anything football related, where the kids some of our leaders and older guys, they spent time bonding with me and bonding with our staff, and the camaraderie and the friendship and just being around each other really has helped us come together and bond and just be a closer team. And I think that's the difference. They know that we care about them beyond football. Mm-hmm. It's a bigger life lesson that we're trying to teach them about how to be great people.
Have you ever sat down with Dave Aranda? Because it sounds like you're repeating a lot. Not a lot. He's not the only one, but that's that person over player and the things that they discuss.
That's always been kind of something I've always clung to. I was fortunate enough to be in a high school program where most of my teammates and most of my coaches were still really tight. I was very fortunate to play for a man named Mike Safuto, who every coach on his staff became a head coach. Every coach. And then countless players, Reed Heim at Denton Geyer, Shea Hendricks at Bernie, Dave Handel at Tomball, on and on and on. I can name countless head coaches that he coached. So the person piece, the whole person, the building young men up into being great fathers, husbands, and all that in the long run, that's something that was instilled in me, because that's, a lot of these young men like me, the coaches are the father figure. Mm-hmm. That was me. And so we just instill those kind of things in our players. And the funny thing about it, you mentioned Dave Aranda. I met Dave Aranda a lot of years ago when we both were coaching in college. He was the DC at Northern Arizona. I was a position coach at Texas State University, and we both had mutual friends that we knew at UNLV. Well, 2002, 20 years ago, he's sitting in the office at UNLV, and I just saw a guy sitting by himself watching film, and I just introduced myself, and I could tell a long time ago that he was serious about his business. And so, I reminded him of that when I was in Frisco. He recruited Frisco Heritage when I was there. And I said, do you remember me coming up to you and mention? But he's had several stops since then, so of course he didn't remember as much. But, I met him way back then, 20 years ago.
It's amazing how the spider web of connections, the networking in some ways. Yeah. So, you took this job, and unfortunately it's been tough. I mean, they've had long losing streaks. They have the history of, obviously, Parrish Cox. You had LaDainian Tomlinson. You've got that picture honoring him outside your office. There have been Walter Abercrombie. I mean, some dudes here. But the last several years has been tough. When you took this job, Kent, what did you see?
Well, of course, when you look at records, when you look at everything associated with the program over time, the lack of success jumps out at you. And then I guess me being stubborn and me being optimistic, I went through a lot of the same kind of things when I took the Little Rock Central job. They hadn't won in a long time. It was down. The program was down, and then year 2 we turned it. But I always felt like if I had the support, which I do, from Dr. Kincannon, our superintendent, to the building principal, Mr. Alonzo McAdoo, to our athletic directors, Coach Love and Coach Smith, if we had the support and we had the resources, and if we had a little bit of talent, then we might have a chance. And obviously, being able to play some familiar faces in Central Texas would help us as well. But those little things, in my mind, I feel like we would probably have a chance. And obviously, we certainly we turned it and been able to do some good things. And I'm just very blessed and fortunate to have hired some really good coordinators with Coach Avance, Coach Draper, having the community support of South Waco and the community. And my obviously, my wife, when I took the job, she's like, "Do you know they went 0-30 recently?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "They have, but you know what? I think we can do something a little different here. We can, we can bring in good coaches and we can capture the hearts of the players." And fortunately, for the most part, that's what's happened. I mean, the players know we really love them like our sons. And I have a young lady on the team as well, and we love her like she's our daughter. And that's from the football players to the athletic trainers, the student trainers on down. So it's been a really good thing, and I'm just blessed to be a small part of it.
It's been a great thing. Kent Laster, head coach at University High. Playoffs for the first time in 13 years. What was that moment, and what did that mean to the program, to you, to the players?
It's funny when I think about these goals, and I tell the players sometimes, if you have a goal that doesn't bring tears to your eyes, you're not aiming high enough. And so there's times, when I'm not coaching, when I get emotional thinking about, wow, they hadn't made the playoffs in 13 years. We hadn't won more than 5 games, but once in 12 years, only twice in 3 times. This is the 3rd time in 20 years. And then they hadn't played for a share of the title since 1996. So when you think about that, if you really take time, then I sit down and I stop, it gets emotional. But when we won the game, which was against Rouse, that guaranteed playoffs, I was just kind of still in the game mode. But to answer your question, it's, again, I just feel blessed. I feel fortunate that I'm just one person, but so many people play a role in what we're doing, from the coaching staff and the support we have and the players. And I just want to give them all the credit because I'm just one person and they all bought into the vision.
Well, they did, and good luck again with what you have with Belton, Kent Laster. What a great story at University High, and it's just begun. And this is 365 Sports.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
We end every week by looking ahead to what are the games this week in week number 11. This is thanks to Jerry Forrest and pigskinprep.com, and Jacob Wilson puts up the graphic. There are 30 games that we put up on my website, Smoaky.com, and it's a pick'em contest. If you want to go on to Smoaky.com and then find the pick'em link at the top under high school sports, and then there's a pick'em link. Pick 30 games, best record among whoever does fill it out gets a $25 gift certificate from Bubba's 33. Here are the games that are featured, in fact, this week. At the very top, what a year it's been for Parish Episcopal. Again, now, as we tell you this, remember the number on the right-hand side, that red number, the lower the number, the better the game based on the index of the two teams playing. Episcopal and Plano Prestonwood in a heck of a game, ranked number 1 and number 2 in the state. Underneath that, there's another private school game with Bel Air Episcopal and Houston Kincaid. That is the second highest rated game based on the index from pigskinprep.com. Go down a couple of notches, ought to be interesting. Holly's a favorite, 9-0. Cisco's always, well, they're good at 8-1. Fort Bend, Marshall, and Dayton's another game. Go down a couple more notches to the last game on that page. Chapel Hill, they have last year they made it to the semifinals before losing to Austin LBJ. They have sophomores throughout that roster, and they're all really good. I mean, Ricky Stewart, the running back, Demetrius Brisbane, the quarterback, and they have Deuce McGregor, who's an upperclassman wide receiver athlete. They're scoring a ton of points. That's a good one against Kilgore in Class 4A Division I. Go to the next page. Go down about 3 or 4 notches to Timpson and Garrison. Timpson's a heavy favorite. One of the first games I ever covered back in 1981 when I got into television was Garrison and Timpson. You know who was at Garrison at the time? A guy named Domingo Bryant, who eventually played at Texas A&M and with the old Houston Oilers. Chilton Milano. Again, most of the games this week, a lot of heavy favorites in the games coming up this week. That Richmond-Foster game, that draws a lot of interest against Fulshire. They had the big one against Manville. That ought to be interesting. Fulshire, again, a slight favorite by just a point based on pigskinprep.com. Midlothian, Heritage, and Everman, that's going to be a good one as well at the bottom of that page, number 9 on that page of 10 games. Go down to page number 3. Stephenville and La Vega, 4A Division I. Most everyone thought this might be for the district title when the new districts were put out, but China Spring has interrupted that. The defending champion Cougars, who we have featured before with that win 2 weeks ago in Stephenville. China Spring is rolling. The game between Stephenville and La Vega is for who's going to be the number 2 seed in that district. Franklin and Academy. Franklin a heavy favorite. They just keep on rolling. Go down to Centerville and Corrigan Camden. Centerville will punch you in the mouth. They have a fullback, and they will punch you in the mouth. And that ought to be an interesting game with what Corrigan Camden has with their speed. Newton and New Waverly. Newton, the Eagles. They'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime, whatever class it is, and they're rolling, but wanted to feature them 8-1 against New Waverly. Lancaster with that great speed. Lufkin has that great speed as well. They both have tremendous history. Lufkin has not been quite the same recently, but that's a good one to look at in Class 5A. And the final game, down south, Gregory Portland and Flower Bluff of Corpus Christi. Those are the elite games. Next week, we start our podcast involving the playoffs. The first of 6 weeks for everyone who has a chance to maybe play at AT&T Stadium, and we'll have more. Thanks to Jacob Wilson. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. I'm David Smoak. This has been the statewide high school football podcast brought to you by Smoaky.com and powered by 365 Sports. Battle in the gun with Hill to his right. Play action to the right. Steps up, throws over the middle. He's got Thornton. Caught it! Junior Thornton. Split. 6. Touchdown. Midway.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Hill, right side, finds a seam. Hill, 20. Hill, 10. Hill, touchdown. Midway, no flags. Midway takes the lead by more than 1 score. And how about the Big Uglies inside?